So Corby, I know that we were talking about a lot of Doc Counsilman's effects on his students and obviously the swimming world. But one thing that I don't think we talked about was his theory of how practice should be run in regards to how you feel, the hurt, the pain, the agony. What do you have to say about that?
Doc would introduce that concept to the team probably about mid-December in the training schedule. And the idea was that, first of all, he introduced the theory that we're going to work harder than you've ever worked before. But even at that, there would be some people, you might say, that would kind of cruise through practice, and others that, you know, would work a little harder. You know, as a coach, you understand that. And his idea was that before you could improve, you had to hurt yourself. You know, I heard somebody once say that being in shape was all about how much pain you can take while you're swimming a race. And I guess that was kind of ultimately the idea behind it. And that, you know, only a certain percentage of people could really hurt themselves and thus improve. But then there was another level, another barrier that you would get through the hurt, breaking into the barrier of pain, that even a fewer percentage of swimmers had the ability to really swim in pain. And finally, there was another barrier that was agony, hurt, pain, and agony, that you could break through the hurt, the pain barrier and get into the agony, and that maybe 2 to 5% of swimmers were able to get to that point. And obviously, in his mind, those were the ones that would get into the best shape and the best condition and were the best swimmers.
Well, I know even during that same era, a swimmer named Don Scholander always said in all of his races he needed to see color. He needed to see pink, black, and then back to, you know, reality again if he had done his best job. So, you know, how did Doc get this across? I mean, you can tell a kid, you know, athlete to hurt themselves, but when he found someone that, you know, pulled back on that, what did he do?
Well, the thing about Counsilman and about the whole IU team experience at that time, Doc was really a laid-back coach, okay? He was not a high-pressure, real structured individual. A lot of people, you know, Doc was kind of like the absent-minded professor. He was very much an intellectual, and he approached things from the standpoint that, you know, here it is, and if you want it, come get it. Also, into the mix was the idea that he had such an array of talent in the pool at that time. There was real competition to get on the NCAA team, or as he referred to it, the NC2As. After Indiana won the national championship in 1968 for the first time, and the NCAA came out with a ruling that we're going to limit the number of participants that you can take to the nationals. The old idea that if you make national cuts, yet you go to the meet was no more. And suddenly you might have somebody on your team that made a cut or two, but since they're only allowing you to take 18 swimmers and divers, with divers counting as a half a person, that, and in Indiana they had some of the best divers in the world, so you knew they were going to take 4 divers to the meet. There's room for 16 swimmers on the national team. So you didn't have to motivate people a whole lot in terms of making them work hard, because if they didn't, they weren't in the top 16. They didn't go to the NCAAs.
Well, it was almost like making a Major League Baseball squad or a football squad or anything.
Yeah, very much. I mean, like I say, there were only so many spots, and within the team, I mean, there were Olympians from all over the world, aside from, you know, at one time, I think Doc had 3 Sullivan Award winners on the IU team at the same time. Charlie Hickox, John Kinsella, and Mark Spitz. So you had some of the very highest echelon level swimmers, not only from the United States, but, you know, people from Australia and Finland and Canada and Mexico. They were there too.
Well, you know, getting back to the hurt and the pain and the agony of training, what did he do? You know, they couldn't when they were putting themselves through, you know, the sets and the pain and trying to get better. What did he do to make sure they were also swimming relaxed?
I can't say that the whole idea of swimming relaxed was even there at that time.
Sure.
You know, there's a lot of things have... This was the 1960s. You're talking 40, 50 years ago. And swimming was just emerging from having people that had senior life-saving be your swim coaches. This was the time when a scientific approach and an organized practice was coming to be. If you can imagine, swim goggles hadn't really even been on the market yet. I mean, if you wanted a pair of the small plastic swim goggles, you had to find some swimmer that was from California and have him order them from back home, because the big companies that sell these things today, and you can run down in Sport Mart, they weren't available. So you know, even the technology had changed, and the idea of, you know, swimming relaxed, it just wasn't there yet.
Well, that's neat that you recognize that, because there's a lot of that, you know, in this day and age, and that the goggles were not there. What about the suits?
Suits, you know, today we have these things that look like something from outer space that Michael Phelps wears when they swim, that keeps the water off their body and cuts through. And at that time it was more a matter of, you know, we're going to wear the smallest, tightest fitting suit possible and shave all the hair off the body. And that's what they did. So
most of it was a training environment and a psychological environment.
Well, the training, the mechanics, and the psychological.
Sure.